Thank you very much for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show, episode 106. Today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to motivate your photography. Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And before we get talking about motivating your photography, I just want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 106. Also, if you're looking for great photography training, I've got a link that'll help you save $20 on Kelby One annual membership. Just go to williambeem.com/Kelby1. I've been a member of here for years. I've got training there from Lightroom, from Photoshop, photography and lighting. They've got graphic design and just all sorts of stuff. And they keep adding new stuff. There are things coming in every Thursday where they've got new lessons. So I really highly recommend Kelby One training. And a $20 savings is still a wonderful thing. Just go click on the link, williambeem.com/Kelby1. And in the upper right corner, you'll see a link that says start today. And as soon as you click that, you'll see your discount applied. No coupon codes necessary. This thing about the top 10 ways to motivate your photography. You know why this came about? It's actually the other day we met a couple of friends of ours in the mall, just happened to run into them. And I asked one of them, it's like, what are you shooting these days? He said, I haven't picked up my camera in 4 months or so.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I think we've all done that before. There gets to be a time where it's like, okay, I'm not really doing anything new, or I'm tired of what I've been doing. And after a while, you kind of start missing it and you want to think, all right, what can I do? So that's kind of what we want to talk about here is if you're in the mood to get back to your photography after maybe taking a break, or maybe you're just not feeling anymore, hopefully some of these tips will give you an idea of just how to get back into it. And the first thing we're going to suggest is find your one thing. When I say find your one thing, what I'm talking about is the specific genre or type of photography that actually gets you interested again. In my case, I do portrait and travel photography. I've tried concerts and events and sporting and all that stuff. And I thought those really aren't for me. The stuff that really gets me excited these days is doing portraits. And that's what I want to do. And within portraits, you've got a whole number of ranges of things that you can do, different styles. And, you can go look for models. You can go look for athletes. You can maybe dancers. Some people like doing fine art nude. I know Lindsay Adler has got courses on that. That's not my thing. But you can find a style within a genre. And if that's the one thing that really speaks to you, that's what you go for.
I like my food photography. And that's just for me for fun. I think that's important, is for a part of your one thing, even if it's not specifically the thing that you're in, if it links to it and kind of carries you through to it, have something that you do just for fun that leads you into that one thing that you like to do. Because that's kind of led me into doing my product photos, which I really enjoy. And I'm not doing these to be published in magazines or anything. I'm not, but I am very picky about how I want them to do and just how I want them to look. And just having them taking photos for fun. When I took a break from using my camera, I thought I wasn't enjoying it. So I didn't really have anything drawing me in to carry the camera around. And I happened to have the phone in my hand. I was taking photos and realized I'm enjoying taking photos of my food. It became just a fun thing I would do. But that kind of led me on, because I'd get into situations where I'd have the phone and think, this would actually work better if I had my camera. And that's kind of where it started to build on it. So, where you kind of focusing on the one thing, I'm focusing on the find. When you find your one thing, you don't have to sit and think of something. Often you've already got something or the precursor to something, and you just have to follow your own lead.
Well, when you do your photography, like you said, you started off doing it just for you. And I think that is how you find your one thing. This is what I want to do. And you're looking at colors, you're looking at shapes and angles and lighting and so forth, and you're having a lot of fun with it.
I am.
And that's your one thing. But it's also kind of opened up the door for something else you do. It's like you do your social media post after your run every day.
Yeah.
And it's not food photography, but that's another example of kind of the same thing. You're setting up a scene and taking your shot and you're sharing that, whereas your food photography is primarily for yourself. This is like, it's not even so much about the photography as is your engagement within the community.
It is, and I've got a definite style. I mean, I think if you look, when people look through my feed, they're starting to recognize that I've got a few social media accounts, and one is my personal account, which is the one that I started using, and I've just kind of carried on using it. But I had the one under the business account name as well, And I figured out last week, I'll just put a couple of things up because I haven't used it and it's been sitting dormant for a while because I didn't, honestly, I just don't know how to kind of transfer the people from the one list to the other and how to lure them in if I want to start using the business name. But people actually recognized my style. It showed up recommended in their feed, even though I haven't connected the two accounts in any way.
They know who you are.
They're linked to completely different email addresses and Facebook accounts. They somehow recognized the style of the photos in there, which interestingly didn't feature me. And a whole surge of followers just popped up overnight.
And we're going to get into the style a little bit later on in this list. But the next thing on the list is to get someone to critique your existing photos. In other words, you kind of want to take assessment of where you are today. And it's really difficult sometimes to look at your own work objectively. You want someone else to look at it. And one of the things that with your photography, Lee, that really kind of I shake my head as like I agree with it, is you had different vendors that you're working with, and they kind of wanted to, like, can you take a photo of this or can you take a photo of that? And then you shared something with them. They look back and said, wow, that's better than the people we paid to market our stuff.
I had one of those. I think
and you did it with an iPhone.
No, that one was that was done with the camera. And but it was just something that I put in there. It's a product that was new. It was recently designed. It's something that's coming new to the fitness world. The person very kindly, through some links in social media, I got to know him, and through work as well. And he sent me a prototype. I just fell in love with this tool. It's indispensable to me now. And I took some photos just as part of my own social media stuff, stuck them out there. And he sent me a message and asked, how did you take those photos? He said, because I just paid a ton of money to get professionals ones done. He said, please do not tell me you took those with your phone. He said, because yours are actually better. This is a relationship. I'm not trying to sell anything. I actually sent him some photos and said he can use them. Yeah, let him pick the ones that he liked. And I've got no problem doing that because there's a relationship here. Yeah, sometimes you just do something different, and it was a very simple thing. The product is pretty much almost a primary blue, and so I went and got a bright orange background, and it was just a small piece of square foot of fabric.
Yeah.
And it was an offcut. I stuck it down, I arranged the little product in there, I zoomed in, and we had the blue against the orange. It was that simple, and the only thing that I did is because it's flexible, it's a type of band, like almost a sort of like a rubber type band. I was able to twist it and make some sort of shape, and I allowed for space to put in the signature and the graphic where I wanted it. And it worked, but I let him know, this is a simple setup.
So that was someone who looked at your photos objectively after having spent money on something else. If you don't have a relationship like that and you want someone to critique your existing photos,
ask your husband.
Well, ask your friends, go to a camera club or a local group meeting. You can find Facebook groups that do it. Also, I mentioned Kelby One at the beginning of it. You don't have to be a member for this part. They have a show on YouTube and a podcast called The Grid. And once a month, they will critique people's photos. And it's a blind critique. So in other words, you submit it without putting your name on it. And they will go and review the photographs, and it'll be on the show. So everybody's going to see this, but they don't necessarily know it's you. And they will tell you the truth about them.
They will. And also remember that critique is always subjective. So you will learn as you get used to these things to take on the opinion base and then look at things and say, this is a technical issue that I can work on. And you just need to find your spots in there. So the key to get the most out of this is not to take anything personally. Take it all as the input, apply the things you want to, disregard the things that you don't care for or think that don't fall. Or, maybe somebody says, I don't like this. You think, well, I did that on purpose, because that's okay. But get what you want out of it. Do not take a critique personally. If you've requested it, you've invited it. Take everything on board, analyze it, take what you want from it, and
another place where critiques come up are in workshops. And you just reminded me of something that happened when I attended Joe McNally's workshop in St. Lucia. And every day we'd take our shots and then we would critique each other's photos. A guy put up a photograph of one of the models, and it was my turn to comment. And I said, it looks like a propaganda photo, because it had that strong stoic look of this model. And she was very athletic, kind of looking off and a little bit upward in the direction. It just reminded me of those propaganda kind of photos. And he said, that's what I was going for. And great, you nailed it. He got exactly what he wanted. And I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So for the fact that I could say, it looks like propaganda kind of thing.
It's like playing Pictionary.
It was, in a way it was. His lighting was outstanding. His model was a wonderful woman. It was a perfect photo. If I looked at it as art, as a style, it wasn't for me. But as soon as I said propaganda, he said, that's what I was going for.
Face lit up. Mission accomplished.
He definitely nailed exactly what he was going for. And I think that's one of the benefits you can get from a critique is people don't know what your intentions are. They'll tell you what comes to mind, whether it is technically or creatively. They'll let you know what they see, and then you can use that to tweak and adjust for your next shoot.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can do these in, there are groups on Facebook that will do constructive critiques. You don't want someone just going out there bashing your stuff. You want them to actually give you information of what they see and what, if, from their opinion, maybe you could have done better, or to congratulate what you've done. I don't think you should be afraid of a constructive critique. The grid is definitely a place once a month where they'll do, and they rotate through. Sometimes it might be portraits, not landscapes. It might be wildlife. You kind of pick and choose where you submit for what kind of work that you do. But having someone look at your photos and giving you an objective critique is really useful. And the flip side of that is look at other people's photos and critique them. Don't go off and tell them what your critique is, but Lee and I do this all the time. We'll look at photos and we'll offer our little critiques to each other about what we think about it. And that helps us understand elements that maybe we want to look at in our own work.
Yes.
Right. Number 3, drop your old habits and find new ones.
Ooh.
All right. It is very easy to get into a rut in almost anything you do. And this is one of those things where you need to identify, are you in a rut? Is that holding you back? For example, I like portrait photography, as I said. If you're always shooting in a studio, go on location. If you go on location quite a bit, do you go to the same place? Go find a new location. It's just examine yourself and find out, do you have habits that might be holding you back because you're doing the same thing over and over again? And maybe that's why you've lost a little bit of your love.
Or experiment with your colors and your setups and things like that.
Exactly. So it's just a chance to examine what you're doing and saying, can I create something new here? And some photographers do this by completely changing genres. So, for example, I was looking recently at some photos by Tim Tatter, who's really does some wonderful sports photography. But he's also got some portraits where he's done, one was called like water wigs. In other words, they put water balloons over people's heads, and they capture it at the moment the water pops out of the balloon, and it looks like a little wig of water over the person's head. Or he did another one with brightly colored umbrellas and colored smoke. You know, it was just a very colorful and experimentation kind of thing. But that's something that kind of feeds your creative habit outside of the normal thing you do. So kind of drop your old habits and find some new ones. Our next one we've talked about a few weeks ago was about challenges. And I'll put a link in the show notes about that. But create a challenge to improve an area where you think that maybe I could be better.
And it doesn't have to be a big challenge that's going to take months and months to do. For example, I was putting together a little blog post draft last weekend, and I knew that I had photos for it. But as I looked at some of the photos, I thought, some of them were ones that I'd taken maybe 6, 8, 12 months ago, and I wanted to do them differently. I thought, I'd prefer this if. And so my little challenge is to go and redo those photos to suit me now and to suit my needs and also to suit my taste now, because what I want and what I need has changed. And this isn't a dramatic thing. I don't have to recreate the exact shot. In fact, I want to do a totally different take on it. But I think that what I'm trying to do is use my photography for each of those shots to communicate a different message to the one maybe that I was using or that I had in mind in the direction I was moving a year ago.
The next item on our list is one you were actually just talking about at the beginning, is to develop a style of photography. And by that, I mean, you want to have your photographs have a certain look. So when someone else sees it, they said, oh, I know that Lee Beem shot that. I know Joe McNally shot that. Or I know who the photographer is that created that work based upon the style.
Yeah.
This could be your subject matter is going to be part of it. The way you're lighting it or using available light on your subject matter could be the color, could be the design, could be your post-processing. And all these little things have an impact upon your style. And if you change all those things from every shot to shot, then you don't really have a style.
You don't. But, I have realized, and this came again looking through, and I'm using Instagram as an example because it's really about photos. And no matter what people have used to capture the photo, whether it be a high-end DSLR or the cheapest smartphone with a camera that you can find, most accounts have a very typical look. And you get the extremes where some of them are completely haphazard, but most have some kind of common thread in style in there. I think people naturally develop a style. On the opposite extreme are ones where you get what looks like the same photo every day with maybe different colors, or same photo in different weather, same photo. People are doing the same old every day, and you have to find something in between them. Consistency is good, but monotony is not.
I've got a YouTube channel I've been following lately, and where the person who's doing it shows you how to edit in Lightroom in the style of someone he's found on Instagram. And I apologize, I can't remember his name right now, but I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. So that way you can look at his different videos and you can see the different styles of photographers that are on Instagram that he's following and demonstrating how they got their look, at least the post-processing part. And I think that might help kind of illustrate what we're talking about here with the style of photography, because you'll see the examples of the photos that they're taking and how the post-processing gets you there. All right, number 6 on our list is to network with like-minded creative people. Again, with my example with portrait photography, there's a lot of people I need to network with because I've got to find different subjects to be models. I occasionally need to find people who are doing hair and makeup in order to style them. And also, I want to do a lot more on location, so I've got to find people that've got interesting locations that'll allow me to use their space.
Yeah.
So the ones I'm looking at now, rather than the models that you find, either on Facebook or local model groups or Model Mayhem, I'm actually looking more at athletes because one, they've got finely tuned bodies. Two, they move their bodies in very different ways than the typical model does.
Yes.
And you've got a couple of friends that you referred me to.
Well, I'm kind of connected inside this kind of community. But yeah, I've got some triathletes and bodybuilders and strength trainers.
And I've got a woman that I know that is a world record holding power lifter. I really want to get her. She wants to invite over some of her friends who are also in the fitness community. Years ago, I used to work out, and I've got my trainer is still a friend, and she's got folks who are into the running and triathlete community as well, and as well as people who play basketball and other sports. I kind of want to get a mix of these people because I think they're interesting. I like the fact that they are very passionate about something they do, and they're not going to go up there and pose and put their hand next to their head and give me a blank stare or something like that.
Because that just doesn't fit what you do. I mean, you put your hand next to your head, you're either going to fall over or get hit on the head. Or you know what I mean?
It looks like you got a toothache.
Yeah. So, I think athletes are very different. You're right. They are so different to models because of the way they move. And not only that, because of their shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, they do move differently because of where they're focusing their work. These are people who, when they commit to it, adapt their entire lifestyle to work on performance.
And the other thing when I say network with like-minded people, it's not just the people that you're going to take photographs of. You also want to network with people that might be able to assist you, or maybe you can assist them. Maybe you'll learn something being an assistant on someone else's shot, or maybe they will be able to help you and they'll spot something that you're just not seeing because you're so overwhelmed with the overall production of your shot. There are plenty of opportunities to network, and that will help drive your creativity and kind of motivate you to try new things.
Or someone who has a mutual need, that kind of fills up the opposite end of yours. You need the photo, you need the model for the photos, and they need photos, but they don't have a photographer. You can work something else together.
Yeah, there's opportunities here to trade rather than have to pay, back and forth. Number 7 on my list is to print your photos. And I don't know how else to explain this other than to say is your photos look very different when you hold them in your hands.
Yes.
Rather than looking at them on the screen. You always printed stuff and you'd hang things on the wall.
I did. Yeah. My house was always absolutely covered with, and not small things. I mean, I had my collective frames and stuff in small areas, but I had enormous frames and big canvases and things all over the house.
See, I've got a couple of canvases. There's one right next to me. It's actually an aluminum print from Image Wizards, and that's the inside of the vehicle assembly building. I don't know why. I just really like that building. Mm-hmm. And it's sitting by me. And I've got a couple of other canvases, some I did, and one that was a prize that I won, and around me. And your photos just look very different on different types of material, but hanging them on the wall or holding them in your hand or maybe giving a print to someone that you photographed makes your photography a bit more tangible, a bit more real, and it makes you want to go take some more photographs.
Yes.
Print your photos by all means. And I'm not talking about like a little 5x7 thing that you're going to get from Walmart. I'm talking about do a nice print of a photo that you're really proud of the photo in the first place. And then if you either hang it up or you share it with somebody else, you get a sensation of accomplishment. Like, this is the final result of my work, and I want to go do that again. Right. Number 8, I say assess your resources. And by that, it doesn't necessarily mean go out and buy new gear. That may be a result of assessing your resources depending upon what you do, but you need to know what you've got and what it can do for you. And that's not just your camera gear and your lighting, but your resources are also your network of friends or relationships that might help you create the photographs that you want to take. And if you're missing something, having done that assessment kind of tells you, where do I need to go find a new resource? Lee, when most of your stuff is either things that you put together, but you have to go out and find resources. Like you talked about that offcut scrap. For you, we went off to a craft shop and found some things for you.
Yeah, craft shop is actually my go-to, and that works for me because I'm doing quite zoomed in photos. My products are not enormous products. They're taking up, maybe I need a foot or two of space if I zoom in. And for me, it's really the composition that counts. So craft stores work really well for me. I can get a range of textures and different things that I can use as backdrops. And more importantly, I can fold and pack them away in a very portable and easily accessible little box or container and store them in the spot. I've got a favorite spot outside where I like to take my photos, where I get some good daylight. Most of the day, there's not harsh sun on there. Nearby is where I tend to keep my foam boards and little things, poster boards and things, and different fabrics and textures.
And your resources can be anything from something free to something very expensive. For example, we did a photo shoot for Lee just the other night. One of the things I needed was a background. I didn't feel like putting up the big seamless and setting everything up for like a studio shot. We just did this at home with 2 lights, and I have this 4x8 foot black foam core board. I got that for free from a print shop because it was a misprint. On the other side was a white background. They tried to print something off, for one of their clients, and for whatever reason, it screwed up. It was not a usable piece. So for them, it was trash. For me, it was a resource.
Yeah, that's kind of typical of me. Are you using this? Do you mind if I take it?
Now, on the other extreme, I'm buying new lights because the lighting situation I've got, I kind of talked about on the last podcast, isn't really where I want it to be for the work that I want to do. I'm not going to tell you that buying new gear is the answer to motivating your photography, but if you're motivated and you need resources, buying gear that makes it easier for you to do your photography is something that might work for you. So this is not necessarily about that you need to buy gear to motivate your photography. The idea is find out what you want to do and then assemble your resources to make it happen. Number 9, we talked about briefly, but it's like change your location. It's very easy to get into a rut, I guess.
It is, because location often, unless you've got your own lights with you, in my case, I'm trying to find a location where the light isn't too harsh, but I have enough of it without shadows. And I have a location, and for the most part, it works for me better than anything else anywhere else I've tried has got some limitations.
One of the things that comes to mind for me with this is getting a sense of getting out of your rut, which we kind of talked about, drop your old habits, but changing your location gives you this little feeling of something fresh and new. And I know people who are bird photographers that have always gone to the same place year after year when the birds are migrating and they shoot their birds there. Well, here in Florida, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a bird. And there are plenty of different opportunities and locations. So your backgrounds are going to be fresh. You might not exactly know where everything is happening, but then you can go to explore, and then you find something that you didn't find at the other location you were at. That's a wonderful sense of discovery, and you want to take a photograph of it. But it's not just that. Even travel photography, if you're someone who likes to go around, pick some different cities. If you're doing urban photography all the time, go find something rustic. Just changing the location of where you are can kind of spur your little creative senses and make you want to start shooting again. And the last item on our list, number 10, is display your work in public.
Yeah, that's kind of a big one. If you want people to see it, other than your friends, your friends are not going to help it grow if you hide it from other people.
Well, there's that aspect of it, but I think there's a bit more as well. When you display something in public, one, you're going to get some feedback on it. And, there's a potential risk that some of the feedback may be negative if somebody doesn't like it. I don't think that happens quite as much if you're in a good group. But again, kind of like printing, it is an acknowledgement of what you've done, and sharing with the world. It's a sense of accomplishment and a sense of achievement. You go off and share your photos. And I don't mean, just smacking snapshots up on Facebook or Instagram. I'm talking about your works of art, something that you want to put up there that's going to wow somebody else. And it feels really good when they like what you've done. All right, that's our list for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. We'll see you again next week. Thanks so much. As I said, show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 106. And if you're into portraits and you've got Lightroom, I have a free gift for you. There are some free portrait brushes available at williambeam.com/free brushes. And all you've got to do is just go there, put in your email address, and I'll send them right off to you. They will help you enhance the whites of the eyes, the irises of different colors, skin for light and dark skin, and brighten teeth. It's a very simple set, but you know what? It's also very effective, and it's my free gift for you. Thank you very much. We'll see you again here next week, and take care.